11:30, and we are starting off this webinar on vegetable cultivation post-COVID situation. This is Ram Kaundinya here. I am the Director General of Federation of Seed Industry of India. It's my pleasure to host this discussion this morning. We have an eminent panel, and after I give a little bit of introduction, Ms. Ananda will introduce the speakers. So just as a few opening remarks, which I will try to give. After that, we will pass it on to the speakers. What we are trying to discuss today is that what is the opportunity and how do we encourage vegetable cultivation in India in the post-COVID world. You know, all of us are aware of the damage and the havoc that is caused by COVID-19 right now. It is actually, it is still a bit too early to talk about the post-COVID situation because we don't know when that post-COVID will happen, because there is really no clarity on how long this will go on. So this can go on for a few months or for a few years, depending on how the virus actually survives and when the vaccine will actually come. But for the purpose of our discussion, what we have decided is that we will look at the situation from this Kharif onwards, so that we can basically take a time horizon of next 5 years, and wherever possible extend it up to 10 years. But essentially looking at next 5 years, starting from this Kharif, that what is it that the likely scenario to be, and how do we actually encourage vegetable cultivation in this situation? Why vegetables? Actually, when we decided on hosting this from FICCI side, we also have to take a decision on why vegetables. So there are 2-3 reasons. One is that there is, of course, increasing consumption of vegetables, which is actually linked to the level of incomes and level of awareness of people, which has been already happening and which is likely to happen more in future. There is, of course, need for nutrition, and there is also need for more profits for the farmers. That also is likely to drive the vegetable cultivation. But also post-COVID, essentially, we are also looking at that maybe at least for a temporary period, if not, and part of it can become a long-term trend, is that there could be an increased demand for vegetables because people might reduce meat consumption, especially from the wet markets. So there could be an opportunity that there will be more demand for vegetables. And this is also something I think the government is foreseeing, as we could read from some of the guidelines that have come. In between the lines, when you read that the vegetable cultivation, they wanted all the state governments to get ready for this Kharif. Just to give a very broad picture, India produces around 200 million tons of vegetables and another 100 million tons of fruits currently. This is the last available figure, but these are all slightly approximate numbers. Last year, we exported around 1.2 million tons of vegetables, around 5,400 crores we did that. We all know that tomato, potato, onion, okra, green chilies, gourds, brinjal, cabbage, cauliflower, ginger, peas, etc. These are all some of the major vegetables that we cultivate. But the 2 important things we have to keep in mind is that our vegetable consumption is still much below the recommended levels. So WHO recommends 3 servings of 100 grams each per day per person, which should be around 300 grams. But our current consumption is only around 160 grams. So there is an opportunity to increase vegetable consumption in our daily diet. Currently, it's only 9% of our total calories that we take. And there is definitely an opportunity to increase vegetable consumption. Second part is that the population will go up. We are likely to hit around 145 to 150 crore population by 2030. So even if you assume that we don't reach 300 grams per day, but even if you reach 200 to 250 grams per day, we will still need 300 million tons to 400 million tons of vegetables in the next 10 years time. So I think we have a target on hand to increase vegetable cultivation or vegetable production by more than 50%. How do we do that? I think this is also something you can increase by increasing acreages, or you can increase by increasing yields. So this is a challenge before us, and today we will discuss on various options on how to do this. We have eminent panel here. So again, like I said, Ms. Ananda will introduce, but I think some of the aspects which the panel would, I would request the panel to cover are what is the research that is going on, what is the technical work that is going on in increasing vegetables attractiveness or their yields and things like that. What are the new technologies? What are the new agronomic practices, etc., that are coming up, which will help the farmers? Second thing is that how do we help the farmers to achieve higher price and profits? You know, in vegetables, the prices are always fluctuating, and also the profits are also fluctuating because of that. So that is also another question which we would like to look at. We would like to look at what is the seed industry, what does it have to do in this particular situation, and then how do we scale up the entire vegetable cultivation, and what role everyone can play, and particularly also what role can media play in this? Because like one famous writer said that the American food habits are dictated by three people. One is the nutritionist, second is the food industry, and third is the media. Three of them together, they create the food habits of people. So I think media has a major role to play in actually popularizing particular type of food. So we would also like to understand what role media can play. And at the end of it, if we can come up with some kind of recommendations, if we feel that government has to do certain things on the policy front, which from FICCI side we can recommend to the government, I think we will be very happy to come up in the end with some 4 or 5 recommendations to the government. So this is a broad idea and objective of today's discussion. The structuring is that we will have each speaker speaking for 7 to 8 minutes. That will be followed by a brief discussion among the panelists, and then we'll throw it open for discussion and questions and answers. As it is going on, if you have questions, please put them on the chat box, and then we'll keep tracking that also. Then we will use that to actually answer some of the questions. So that's it from my side, the opening remarks, and I would now request Ms. Ananda to introduce the speakers.
Good morning all. I'm Mrs. Ananda, UVL. I am the Head of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for East West Seed India. It's my honor to introduce briefly the eminent panel that we have here today with us. Dr. Ashok Dalwai, who is the IAS officer, is the Chief Executive Officer, doubling farmers' income from the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Dr. Ashok Dalwai, IAS, OR 1984, is presently Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. He has been appointed as CEO, National Rain-Fed Area. Sri Ashok Dalwai has had an illustrious career in development administration, where he has implemented several reforms in the rural agrarian sector in the state of Odisha. In his capacity as a collector of the district, both in states of Odisha and Karnataka, he has applied his deep knowledge of the agricultural sector. As a key member of the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, Dr. Dalwai envisioned and implemented several infrastructure projects that transformed the city into the Silicon Valley and Garden City of India. He was responsible for introducing the self-assessment scheme for property taxation, which was hailed as a model in urban administration all over the country. Now, to introduce the moderator for today, Mr. Ram Kaundinya. He is currently the Director General of the Federation of Seed Industry of India. He has worked for 22 years in the agrochemical sector, and then for the last 18 years in the seed and biotech sector. His last assignment was as the Global CEO of Advanta. He is an author, a teacher, and a board member of some leading companies, and a strategic advisor to agri-businesses. Mr. Dilip Rajan, he's the Managing Director for East West Seed India. Dilip is an accomplished international executive with 25 years experience, supported by a proven track record of business restructuring, turnaround, and above market growth. Dilip focuses on the management of large-scale change, innovation management, and business transformation initiatives that achieve sustainable outcomes. He has worked across a range of industries with leading companies, managing complex programs in pharmaceuticals, nutrition, medical devices, and now agriculture. Dilip successfully transitioned from pharma to farming and is currently the managing director of East West Seed India, one of the leading tropical vegetable seed companies in the world since 2018. Dilip received his Master of Business Administration from Smith School of Business at the Queen's University of Canada. Then we have Dr. Mr. M.R. Dinesh. He's the director of Indian Institute of Horticultural Research, ICR, IIHR. Dr. Dinesh has had his BSc Horticulture and MSc Horticulture and PhD in Pomology with specialization in fruit breeding from the University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore. He joined the Indian Institute of Horticultural Research as scientist and is presently heading the institute as director. He has 30 years of experience in breeding of fruit crops, mango, guava, and papaya. Over the years, he has helped in the establishment of mango and guava free bank with a collection comprising of 728 varieties of mango and 70 varieties of guava. He has developed 2 hybrids in guava, Arka Kiran and Arka Rashmi. He's also one of the authors who has helped in developing Biodiversity International Descriptor on mango and development of the US guidelines for mango. He has guided several MSc and PhD students. Prior to becoming the director of the premier institution, he worked as a head division of fruit crops. Since 2016, he is heading the institute. Now to introduce Mr. R.N. Bhasker, who is a consulting editor of Free Press Journal. R.N. Bhasker is a senior business journalist with over 30 years of news experience. He has been executive editor, Financial Express, and founder and CEO of the information company of Indian Express Group. In December 1998, he gave up his full-time journalistic work with the corporate sector. After being a listed company, he decided to set up his own satellite broadcast company to promote distance learning. He gave away his technology and equipment to Don Bosco Institute of Technology, Mumbai in 2008, and since then opted to be a consulting editor with various publications, including Login, part of German Log Day, Forbes India, DNA, FirstPost.com, Free Press Journal, and MoneyControl.com. He was on the board of studies with Jai Hind College and CIS College of Art, Science, Commerce in Mumbai, and MIT World Peace Institute in Pune. R.N. Bhasker lives in Mumbai. Dr. Surinder Tikku is a partner and director of research at Tiara Seed Science. He has 51 years of experience as a successful breeder, teacher, research, and development manager in public and private sector. He has held global responsibility areas management roles in Advanta, Syngenta, and Pioneer over a span of 30 years. Developed market-leading tomato and okra hybrids for India and tomato for Turkey and USA. Fellow of Society for Promotion of Horticulture, Bangalore. He is also the member of ARIA's Advisory Committee for ICR, APSA, Steering Committee member, ASRT, Supervisory Board member to Access to Seed Index, Netherlands. Thank you.
So thank you, Ananda, for that introduction. We will now go to the speakers, but before that, I will request all. I think Akhilesh, you can mute all the people except the one who is speaking, right? So that and I also request all the people to mute their phones so that there is no extra noise on the system. So we will, since Dr. Dalwai is yet to join, and we, as soon as he comes, we will request him to speak. We will now start off with Dilip Rajan, who is the Managing Director of East West Seeds. Dilip, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, Ram, and to FICCI for hosting this webinar. As you said at the outset, it's a very topical subject, considering that, post-COVID scenario. It's also an honor to be part of this esteemed panel. And I also want to thank, shout out to the participants, the hundreds of them that have joined this webinar. I'll focus my comments on 3 aspects today of vegetable farming in the post-COVID world. The first one being the economy, the role of vegetables, and lastly, on the approaches and strategy to support vegetable farming. As you heard in the opening comments from Ram, this particular crisis has been unprecedented. It is clearly, as it's called, a black swan event. And as a result, it has brought forth global recession. There is questions on financial instability, unemployment, and food security. However, agriculture may be that one sole bright spot in this overall gloomy outlook that's being created as a result of COVID-19. Now, when you look at the World Bank and the IMF, they have projected that the Indian economy is projected to grow less than 2.8% in 2020-2021. And if many of you read yesterday's article, the latest government projections are saying that agriculture is poised to give anywhere between 0.5 to 1% point push to the overall country's GDP. Now, agriculture can resuscitate India's stalled economy and infuse the much needed demand into the system. Now, I agree that agriculture only contributes 17% to India's GDP, but a rise in rural demand will be key to reviving the economy as it provides food security, it provides jobs for half of the country, and it provides livelihood, sustainability for the entire nation. Now, moving to vegetables, you've heard some of the comments from Ram, and to kind of really add to that is, I fundamentally believe that vegetables can represent a real contribution to the development. They provide additional income for farmers and the traders, but they also enhance the health and nutrition of consumers. Vegetables offer an economic choice, a better economic choice for smallholder farmers. As you all know, crops can be grown on smaller farms. Vegetables offer higher value and better returns. For example, 1,000 square meter of land that's planted with bitter gourd will give a farmer roughly the same income as 1 hectare planted to rice. In addition, as you know, vegetables are faster turnaround crops. On average, between 45 to 50 days after sowing, a farmer can realize and harvest his crop. And more importantly, if the farmer follows multiple cropping and intercropping, anywhere between 3 to 4 crops can be cultivated throughout the year. This is something that's badly needed in these times of increased demand of vegetables and changes in food consumption. My last point on vegetables is market-oriented vegetable farming not only creates income, but also helps build resilience to external risks for our smallholder farmers. And it's done because the sheer diversity of vegetable crops, the short growing cycle, and efficient use of irrigation can eventually reduce farmers' vulnerability to these external stressors. Moving to my last point, which is the post-COVID. As Ram said in the beginning, it could be 6 months, it could be 5 years, it could be 3 years. And it is, it is a rapidly evolving situation. I think in the post-COVID world, smallholder farmers will need support not only to enhance their productivity, but also to market the food they produce. And we collectively will need to exploit all levers that we have to achieve this objective. And I think the second part is we need to change the narrative from just food security to more of nutrition security. As you heard in the beginning, India per capita consumption of vegetables is much lower than the recommended guidelines. And then we also need to change the narrative from mere farm productivity to raising farmers' income. And this is where I postulate that vegetables play a crucial role, and they must not be the forgotten crop it has become. What is required is concentrated and coordinated efforts to promote vegetable farming for the marginal farmer, for the migrant workers that we have seen, hordes of them have gone back, a reverse migration to their villages, and for the youth as an economically viable profession. And you need high quality vegetable seeds, but that needs to be combined with the knowledge transfer so in order for the smallholder farmers to utilize. And a lot is being said about technology. I believe technology will be a disruptor. It will disrupt the agri value chains. It will increase productivity. And as we have all seen, it creates new channels to market. And above all, there is now a greater willingness, even in agriculture, to enhance, to embrace and engage digital technology. All of us have experienced that this pandemic has shown the immense value of digital tools, and agriculture cannot be left behind. For a country that relies on millions of smallholder farmers to produce its food, a systemic application of digital tools is absolutely imperative. We have seen each day when they talk about the farm to fork model, technology will be an enabler. Now, if you pause and think, among all the agricultural products, vegetables and fruits are the only ones which can go directly from farm to fork and does not require processing like any other crops. We have seen the current backlash on all things from China. Now, India, as the second largest producer of vegetables in the world, must seize this opportunity to increase its vegetable exports. Now, to gain wider acceptance of our produce from importing countries, India will need to fundamentally adopt new technologies, practices. The existing policies must be repurposed and infrastructure built to foster this increased exports. Social distancing, safety norms are here to stay. What does that mean? This could lead to reduction in labor density. It could result in farm-related works becoming more automated. And consumers have already started signaling that their eating habits will change permanently. Some will prefer eating at home, some will prefer eating more vegetables, and some will say, I would like to grow my own food, whether it is through kitchen or home gardens. This will require everybody, including seed companies such as ours, to start looking at different product and service innovations, looking at knowledge transfer for either home garden and or the vegetable naive farmers. How do we train them to quickly grow vegetables? So with this, in conclusion, I think agriculture, and more specifically vegetable production, offers additional income for farmers, traders, but importantly, it enhances the health and nutrition of consumers while reviving our stalled economy. I would like to say that is a triple win. But we need to seize this opportunity and help us all grow and eat more vegetables, because when vegetables rise, people thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. That was very good and a nice perspective from the seed companies. Akhilesh, can I just request you to check the audio levels? I'm getting some messages on the chat box that audio was not, it was not very audible to some of the people. Just see if you can increase the level of audio. Thank you. Now we go to Dr. Suren Tikku. So basically, the Suren Tikku in our group today represents the private industry from a research point of view. And of course, this will be followed by Dr. Dinesh, who will talk about the ICR system. So I will request Suren Tikku to please talk about the technology and what is new that is happening in vegetable breeding.
Thank you, Condi, and thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And can I share a screen so that it's easier? Can I share the screen? I'm unable to. It says host has disabled participant screen sharing. I get that.
You can share.
Yeah, but it's not coming. Sharing screen, it says, oh yes. Okay.
He has given you the host rights.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So can you see it?
Yeah, please make it full screen.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I think I have only a few points that I feel are needed. I think first thing is that post-COVID or before COVID, this has shown us that farmer is the most important part in our society. Without him, we cannot survive. So other than the 3 COVID barriers, I think farmer is also our COVID barrier, and we need to take them, they need well-deserved attention. For me, the challenges that we have now are that 50% of the workforce is in agriculture, but are we giving them the #1 priority in our country? I think not yet. We have only 4.5% of our budget allotted to agriculture, and although we provide 17% of the GDP, as Dilip already had said, 80% of our food is produced by smallholder farmers who are about 1.1 acre on an average. So, and they live in far corners of the country, and we need to reach them. Average yields are half of China and 1/3 of USA. We still are not harvesting our genetic potential. Labor, although we say is very cheap, it's not cheap really getting any more. It is getting difficult to make them to do the hard work that is needed in our vegetables. So we need something to look at that. We need a state of the art to reach the farmer. And extension is not where it needs to be. And profitability, as Dilip Rajan already said, profitability at farm gate is not what it needs to be. So there are a lot of marketing challenges, and we have, although we don't produce total amount of vegetables that we need per capita, we have gluts at times, and farmers just throw vegetables on the ground, or they don't even harvest, and we don't have value addition. I'll just show two quick slides, and those are one, that our yields over the last 3 decades, it's an FAO data or NSDB data, if you see on the vegetables, we have doubled our yields per unit area, but we have also tripled our acreage for each of these vegetables in the last 3 decades. Yield, as I said, is half of China and 1/3 of USA in most crops. But the good news is that the best farmers, as you will see in the third graph there, they achieve as much as the developed countries. The yield for most of the crops I have shown there. The same is the case in most of the vegetable crops. So the other thing is that the area, I don't think is going to increase. If you see the area increase charts over the last, now it has started to either plateau or started to come down. Tomatoes went from 850,000 to 770,000 in the last 2-3 years. So what do we need? Grow more from less. So we need resilient crops for that. So we need to reach the yield levels so that we don't need keep on increasing our acreage is a key. The second part is that we don't have really any value addition for our crops. So that glut season should be utilized for making those crops for value addition through preservation or drying or dehydration, etc. So there's a big opportunity. We don't stand, we are second in total veg production in the world, but we are not in the top 10 either on frozen vegetables or on processing. Both of them have huge export potential. So we need massive top-down stakeholder discussion on this, on how to go forward on this. Then come my 3 areas where we need to focus on. One is on the agronomy side. I think, as I said earlier, we are not reaching the last farmer. Their yields are low because we don't transfer our technology, we don't transfer the knowledge to them. So we need precision agriculture for harvesting the current genetic potential. And we need this to do through mulching and drip irrigation so that the water is more efficiently utilized. Water is not an unending resource, and the fertilizers are better utilized. So I feel we need to make it mandatory that our country goes into drip irrigation for all our vegetable crops. Even rice and sugar cane, we should have drip irrigation on the top of our priority for agronomy to go to the last mile. Then we need protected cultivation because we have high heat and we have high rainy seasons. If we have some area under protected, which can be net house, which can be greenhouse, which can be polyhouses, we get much more yield, 3 to 4 times yield, and we get cost benefit. We need to work on the cost benefit because there is cost involved in this. And here also, I think the government needs to approach it with some kind of a support to the farmers so that this technology gets widely spread. The other thing I have, last 1.5 years, I have been using no-till method in tomato and okra. I have just shown you 2 pictures. I have been able to grow tomatoes and okra without tilling in between. And the third crop of tomato is back into the field. So we need to work on these combinations because it means better soil preservation. It means less cost of cultivation, and it also enhances. And if you do mulching with this, it also enhances weed control and gives you better yields. So this is something that we need to work on. Which are the crops can be utilized for these kinds of rotations without tilling? Third is, I think, as I said, extension. I am wondering why we don't have, like we have village level clinics for health. Why not have agricultural level clinics where we have workers who are at the beck and call of the farmers? How do we do it? I think both government and the private sector can get in to this. I know that a lot of private sector as well as the government have KVKs in the ICR system, and there are product development and transfer knowledge activities going on in various companies. So we need to find these, and then over and above them, we need subject matter specialists. And then to be able to do this, we need massive skill development at level. We think that we have a lot of skill development, but if we go and ask a fresh BSc guy and ask him, what disease is this? What do I apply as fertilizer for this crop? So we need, just like general physicians, we need general agricultural level workers all over the country. And then we need a database of these extension workers available. Today, if we go on the COVID database, we can know which is the nearest COVID infected person within us. Why can't we create a database of such extension workers in the country so that they are available on a WhatsApp call for the farmers? This needs to have a brainstorming and how do we do that? And then digital services to farmers. There are now some companies involved. You can send them a picture of your crop and they will tell you what disease, what control measures, what kind of fertilizer. So we need this on a large scale. I understand that some companies are already started to develop this service. This needs to be on a war footing and can be in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. As I said, we need to do this as soon as possible. The next one, I think 3 areas that I feel we are not working enough. I have given a chart. You can go through it because this will be available to you. There is a 4 times value addition for the seed if you sell seedlings, but the seedlings available to the farmers today are not really very professional. Most of them are sometimes grown in net houses. They're not insect proof, and sometimes they get infected with the virus. And when they are already in the field, though the virus is not visible, within 1 month of transplanting, the viruses and other diseases are visible. So we need professional nursery development, and I have linked article, popular article that you will find in the link that you can see my article on seedling management and what are the opportunities there. Then I think what is opening with the Ladakh opening and Northeast, I think there's an open possibility to have a counter season seed production for our contract seed production, not only for domestic. It opens a different season because it opens the April to August season. It also opens us as a counter for China. Today, most of that season goes to China for export-oriented seed production. So we need to do that. And then finally, under that, mechanization. As Dilip Ranjan said, we need farm automation, but we cannot just input the farm automation, what is available in, say, California or other places. We need farm automation for the small farm. 1 acre, 2 acre farmer. We need to create an industry. And then some people will say that the labor will get, what do we do with the labor? Labor will go to address and make this industry work that will produce these small, from tilling to sowing, to transplanting and all that. We need to do that. Lastly, I come to the research on breeding. I think one of the key things that will really change the scenario in breeding is the speed breeding. Initially there was a big paper on Nature, the Lee Hickey from University of Queensland and his team. They did 5 to 6 generations of wheat in a year, and now at least 15, 16 crops are now under these with the infrastructure they have built. ICRISAT has built one, so you can get 4 to 5 generations in a year, which means you can go F2 to F7 1 year. So you can get a new variety in 2 years, you can get a new hybrid in 3 years. So this needs very high attention, and it can also help in fruit and tree breeding. I understand that some people have started, because if you can do a turnover of a seed to seed in fruits in 1 year itself, it can make a major change and breakthrough in the improvement that we need to do. And then we need to focus on tree breeding, which means ability to harness the diversity that is available in the wild species of each crop. With the help of genomics and bioinformatics today that we have, it can become more precise and more quick. Speed breeding can enhance that further. So we need, for foliage and root rot resistance, several hybrids are already in the market. We need them to reach the last mile of the farmer through extension. Many traits will be marketed in a couple of years. I don't want to become an advertisement for, but a lot of companies are working. Similarly, insect and abiotic resistance. Today, there are crops where you can have natural insect resistance, and we need to get that into the commercial varieties. So that pre-breeding is required. Suitable for protected cultivations, you may need different aspects, like we have urban farming today. You might need dwarf plants for that, be able to manage getting into that space. And then shelf life. We know that there are tomatoes, there are melons, there are many crops where there is a longer shelf life, 3 months, 2 months, but this hasn't gone into the wide area in India as yet. So that breeding needs to be strengthened. So if I have to conclude, I would say that precision agronomy and related aspects, drip irrigation to be made mandatory, no tilling, research in to make sure what kind of crop rotations we can follow to make it work, developing a skilled extension army for transfer of technology and making a database for that, mechanization for the small farmer, new seed production areas to be explored like Ladakh, so that it is a counter season for us, pre-breeding with the help of genomics and for biotic and abiotic stresses, and speed breeding to make that product delivery faster. I think those are my points. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tiku. That was very, very scholarly presentation. And then I'm sure there are many points which we would like to discuss out of this as we get into the discussion. But one brief comment I have is that yesterday I was on a webinar on irrigation systems, and the people who sell drip irrigation systems were telling that varieties are to be developed to suit drip irrigation systems. I think that was something which I picked up from yesterday's webinar, that there is a need for breeders also to work on developing varieties which suit drip irrigation systems or which suit micro irrigation systems. I think that is also an area, because you mentioned about breeding for other purposes. So I think it is also something which we can keep in mind.
But we really need to extend it all over the country. Why do we have to do flood irrigation today when this is available?
Exactly.
How do we get that done? Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Now we will move to Dr. Dinesh, who is the director of the Iihr Bangalore. So over to you, Dr. Dinesh.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm trying to share my screen.
Yeah.
Huh? You didn't minimize it. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Has to be made full slideshow.
Slideshow.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now it's fine.
Yeah. See, actually, to start off, I think already my previous speakers have given some statistics. Probably little bit, the figures are a bit different, but it is that we have about 10 million hectares now. What is more important here is the small growers are about 82%. Yeah. I think this particular panel discussion is about small farmers, if I am right. Now the higher productivity per unit area is basically our aim here. Why? Because these are all small growers. I think we need to increase the input use efficiency. I have just given one example of microbial consortium here, which can do wonders with the vegetable growing. Another very important point I would like to stress is the development of resistant varieties. I think Dr. Tiku did touch upon this point, because we have been talking about ecosystem services. We have been talking about consumer preference for the quality produce, organic produce. Without a resistant variety, I don't think we can simply practice organic farming. Let us be very, very clear about it. Our half the battle with regard to any biotic or abiotic stress is won with good resistant varieties. Soil fertility, we have not paid much attention. Although we have been stressing on that, we have not paid much attention in this direction. Probably crops like mucuna, which also have got very, very important pharmaceutical use, needs to be tried as intercrop in the vegetable farming systems. Now, value-added products. Yes, we have been saying about it. There are few technologies we have come from different institutes. In fact, we have come out with one tomato crush technology, which we have handed it over to one of the companies, probably tying them with the linking the farmers to the processing company, which we have already taken up this during this COVID. Probably it has to happen in a very big way post COVID. Probably this is one situation wherein I see that farmers have been demanding for the seeds even during this COVID time. That goes to show that we are not going to go down on the production side. Production is going to happen, but how do we take care of the glut? I think this is one very important area which we have to focus in. As very rightly pointed out by Dr. Tikku, there is also very good scope for export. Another thing is protected cultivation. Today, a host of state governments have come up with subsidies. We have in fact promoted capsicum growing under the protected cultivation, wherein the yields are about 2 to 3 times higher. It varies with the crop. Roughly, we have about 25,000 hectares today in India. But I think this needs a relook, and we need to develop a lot of genotypes, especially in the case of some of the crops like tomato, wherein we need to have very good indeterminate hybrids. Already we have, I think there is a need to incorporate resistance in them. Yeah. Now, another very, very important aspect I would like to touch upon is the use of rootstocks. I think rootstocks for with the climate change, rootstocks for some of our vegetable crops is extremely important. I have here given you 2 examples wherein we are working extensively on the rootstock part for the vegetables. One of the rootstocks which we have developed for tomato using brinjal, which is actually which can tolerate the flooding. This we have shown here. In fact, in the case of watermelon, we are having rootstock resistant to fusarium wilt. We are also trying this in chilies for Phytophthora. I think in the days to come, we will have a series of rootstocks which probably can be adapted very, very successfully. I think Dr. Tikku made one mention of zero tilling, if I am right, with regard to tomato growing. I think, Dr. Tikku, we need to look into the aspect of rootstock. This is the high time. We need to have a number of varieties of rootstocks, which probably be it interspecific, intervarietal, whatever it is, we need to have them so that for different conditions, we need to have them. Then I think one question was posed by Sri Ramji with regard to vegetable as a nutritious food. I think there is a need to breed varieties having different nutrient traits. We have done it successfully in some of the fruit crops. In fact, we have varieties in guava which are having very high lycopene content. We have to accept the facts that we are not going to replace rice or wheat or whatever it is. Only we are saying that vegetables are protective foods. These protective foods basically they are very rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, dietary fibers. I have only given here one example of amaranth, wherein the oxalates are very less, nitrates are less, and antioxidants are very high in this case of the variety Samraksha which we have released. We have carotene-rich carrots today, iodine-rich okra we have, iron-rich different vegetables we have. I think there is a need to look into the native Indian types and incorporate them in the breeding program, as well as the wild types, incorporating them in the breeding program. Whatever may be our approach with regard to breeding. Then crop diversification, I think Dilip touched upon this aspect. Yes, we need to have diversification. Probably growing vegetables with fruits, other practices. This can happen in a plot of about 1 hectare. It can successfully happen in a plot of about 1 acre. We have, in fact, from the institute, we have standardized about organic practices for about 12 vegetables. I think nutrient-rich vegetables have to be taken up as a big program in many of the places wherein we are undertaking breeding program. Now, another point is export hub for fruits, vegetables, and vegetable seeds. I think today our seed production trade is about 900 crores out of the 9,000 crores, if I am right. How do we do the doubling of the income? I think Dilip said it is not the productivity or the production, but we need to have doubling of the income. I fully agree with it. I think one of the aspects here is our own experience. Let me tell you, when we took up seed production under the seed village concept, to increase the seed production. We were having 5 tons, now we have jumped to about 20 tons in a space of 2 years through seed village concept. The farmers who are doing this seed production have started earning about 1,40,000 in 60 days from 1 acre instead of just 40,000 if they were to transport it to the fresh vegetable market. This can happen. I think two of the very focused areas which we have to, in fact, the government has to look into is, one is the lack of cold storage facilities at the district and the rural level. Another is the cold chain logistics, which we virtually lack, because like the one we have for the milk, we totally lack it. One of the things we have to keep in mind is there is no problem of glut and no problem of major post-harvest loss when we go to vegetable seed production. Another part is the nursery. Nursery can become a very good enterprise. Seed and planting material. Even you go to the remotest village, we have nurseries coming up producing the seedlings for the farmers. I think this can happen in a very big way. If you see the import of seeds, we have about 1,500 tons of seeds we are importing. Our planting material production is about 21.55 crore requirement is there, planting material. But what is our production? It is only about 5 crore. What a fantastic gap we have. I think this same is the case with the vegetable seeds. We have a very big gap. So I think this gap can be filled if we can rope in lot of farmers who can take up this seed production. When I say seed production, let us not jump into only hybrid seed production. There are varieties which can be definitely taken up and promoted. Now we have a total requirement of about 48,000 seeds, as I said. The replacement rate, if you take it, is about 18,000 tons, and our production is about 9,000 tons. So the gap is about 9,000 tons. So there is a very big scope post-COVID to have this kind of a production center. We have to form essentially village seed production clusters all over India, wherever it is feasible. Dr. Tikku said we can take it up in Ladakh or some other non-traditional places. We can take it up, but let us at least try to find out which are all the seed village cluster farming centers wherein we can take up this kind of a seed production. Another thing is, I would like to give only one example of the FPO, which we started in Gonikopal in Coorg district, Kodagu district, which started as a input supply FPO. Today they are making, after 2 years, a turnover of, very small turnover of 2 crores. This is only by procuring coffee, pepper, fruits and vegetables. I think this is the time when government is giving initiative for the formation of FPOs, that we have to cash in on this and see how best we can promote FPOs. It can even happen, it can even ease the problem of linking the farmers to the market, which FPOs can readily do it. We have shown it here in Bangalore. Now, with our mechanization time, mechanization of the horticultural equipments, we have in fact designed a vending van and gave it to the state departments. About 23 vans we have decided, which are going directly to the farmer's field, picking up the produce and linking it to the market directly. Then mechanization and processing. I think these two things can happen with a very great, in a great way. In fact, we have come out with, of course, this is about fruits. This is about jackfruit. I have mentioned here 3 products. One is juice, another is cookies, another is chocolate, and another scope is for probiotic drinks. I think this can happen with the vegetables also. These are the few points I wanted to discuss with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. That was excellent. And you know, whenever I listen to scientists, I really get excited, because there is so much on the shelf, and there's so much in store that we can actually bring it out into the market. I think one of the points I would like to add to the list you and Dr. Suren Tikku made is that how do we bridge the gap between the lab and the farmer? How do we actually commercialize all these technologies which are available with the institutions? And what is the commercial route for them to actually get exploited by the farmers for their own benefit? So I think this is an area which We have been also talking to ICIR about it, that how can we actually work with ICIR on this. But I think this is something which needs a lot of attention to bridge that gap. But thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, sir.
Which Ram probably can take it up from the FICCI side. If see, what happens is that this audio visual media is one of the most powerful medias today we have. You said about the US, how the food habits are getting designed by the media rather.
Yeah.
I only request you, if it is possible, if our national TVs, I'm not talking about the other channels, it is if the national TVs as well as the private channels, if they can focus once in a week on the new technologies that get developed from various private and public enterprises rather, for about 2 to 1 minute, it would go a long way in spreading the technology.
I agree with that.
Very, very small initiatives which can readily be taken up.
Yes.
The area which I wanted to tell was with regard to the private-public partnership. Today, somehow, in the research, if we can go ahead with good public-private partnership, probably our reach to the rural poor would be much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you have actually brought the subject to media correctly, so that we have the next speaker from media, whom I request to talk, and then also bring out some ways and methods by which media can play a constructive role in actually popularizing the good work that is going on in the research institutions, and also the need for vegetables consumption and vegetable cultivation. Dr. Bhasker.
Something's gone wrong. The screen has frozen.
We can hear you, sir, and we can see you also.
Okay, very good. So shall I start? Basically, unlike the others, I'm not a scientist. I have no presentation. I come from a sector that looks at policy, which looks at strategy. Those are the two areas I focus on. And my talk today briefly will be on strategy and policy and what the government could do. First, everyone knows that almost 30% of fruit and vegetable is wasted every year because of the absence of either marketing or preservation. So obviously you need food preservation. You need something that will extend the life of the product. You need something that can value add the product. So we have to look in terms of value addition and preservation without losing the nutritional quality. For me, if you look at the country, there are only 2 crops, or let's say 3 crops, where acreage has increased, numbers have increased, production has increased, the farmers have got wealthier and wealthier, and that is milk in the organized sector, rice and wheat. All the 3, milk in the organized sector, not the unorganized sector, all the 3 have some things very, very common. There's a procurement policy in place. The farmers guaranteed a price before he gets into production of the crop or the produce. Milk is a produce. So unless there's a procurement mechanism and a price guarantee mechanism, farmers are going to play a gamble, and the farmer suddenly finds the prices have dropped. He has to throw the vegetables out, as it's happening just now. COVID has disrupted existing transportation and logistics channels. And you have stories in Maharashtra of grape owners throwing the grapes out. Yesterday, I was talking to some friends in Pune, and there's a mango seller who's rung up all his corporate friends saying, I'm standing here on such and such a road under such and such a lamppost. Come, take the mangoes if you want free of cost, because I can't look after them. Of course, he knew very well, he was smart. They won't free of cost. They'll pay him some money. But the answer was that he had to find an exit. Farmers need an exit, and unless the government can create a price protection for the farmers, farmers will always be at the mercy of markets and middlemen. So how do you do that? For me, the guru in agriculture has always been Korean, who said the farmer comes first. The farmer must get at least 50% of the market price of the produce. And then in Amul, he made sure that the farmer got 80% plus. Which means that Kurian created a machinery that could procure, process, market, distribute all within 20%. Unheard of in international, in the global world. You need some kind of mechanism to do the same thing in India for vegetables, for fruit. And to make that possible, you need large players coming in. To make large players possible, either through the FPO route or through investment route, the government has to recognize agriculture as an industry. So the industry comes in and tells the farmers, okay, you grow this, I buy back. I will give you the support, and you cluster hundreds of small farmers together and you bring in larger groups together. One of the speakers talked about China having doubled the output, double the productivity of India. What he didn't mention is China has smaller fragmented holdings than even India. In spite of smaller fragmented holdings, it is able to grow larger because it brought larger resources into the business. It's industrialized agriculture without sacrificing labor. There is one more aspect that I'd like to talk about here. Gradually, and I've been looking around, I go around farms, I study farms as a journalist, as a strategist, as a policy observer. And one of the areas that seems to offer a lot of promise to me is hydroponics, because it's protected farming, like one of the speakers spoke about. But more important, it makes 1 acre into 10 acres through vertical farming. The beauty is that it changes the age-old definition of agriculture, where in school we were taught that if you have good sunlight, good water, and good earth, you have good agriculture. Hydroponics says no, you don't need the earth. You don't need sunlight, because plants need spectrum, and they offer spectrum. You combine solar and spectrum and the water, you can have agriculture. Norway exports millions of tons of tomatoes through the hydroponics route. The vegetable is cleaner, and because there's no soil and 80% of pests come because of the soil, there's little need for pesticides. The aerial pests can be controlled through a variety of ways without pesticides. I've been to 2 or 3 beta farms, and just like the government gives a 50% subsidy to drip irrigation, the government should extend that same 50% to hydroponics and encourage farmers to increase yield without increasing holdings. So that's a different kind of technological approach. But after he produces, he wants procurement. He wants a price guarantee. He wants some form of contract farming, like the Jains of Jalgaon did marvelously with coconut, with mangoes and white onions. But they had an end-to-end solution, right from tissue culture to the markets. You need a person like Kurian who can start at procurement, work on processing, work on distribution, work on logistics, and make sure the produce reaches the market, and make sure that the farmer gets at least 50%. So when the government says we'll double farmers' incomes, that's okay for rice and wheat. In vegetables and fruit, the farmer often gets 10% of the market price. He needs to get 50%, 5 times more. Once the farmer is sure that he's going to get more money, he'll produce more. Once he knows that he will not lose because there's someone to procure the thing, he will grow more and more. The answer to this is strategy. The answer to them is large players. How the large players are allowed to come in is a matter of debate. I'm not saying multinationals should come in. You can use the FPO route, but you need to make them grow larger so that the entire ecosystem is in place, and not just the seed, not just the plant, not just the growth, not just the market. It's all of them together. Lastly, I just mentioned one more anecdote. One of the interesting farms I visited was a company called Iihr Farms. All of you have heard about it. Iihr Farms is unique because it exports pomegranates. And I asked the owner, why doesn't he give pomegranates to the Indian markets? He says, no, I don't want to. It spoils my name. I said, why? He says, my product goes air-conditioned to the superstore's doors, and they put it in the garage where it's not air-conditioned, and they put it in the refrigerator only when they want to offer it to customers. That little gap destroys the value of the crop and I get a bad name. I prefer a system where it's cold storage end to end. The way India learned to have cold storage for polio is the same way we need to understand cold storage for vegetables and for fruits. And that is why you need a bigger strategy, not a small fragmented strategy, a bigger strategy, bigger players, and a recognition for agriculture as an industry. I'll take questions later, but this is what I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhasker. That was really a different perspective, and this thing that why can't we use Amul model for vegetables? I think this is actually going on as a discussion point for many years, but I don't think we have seen too much of action on that. This is something certainly we should bring out as a part of our discussion and then a part of our recommendations.
Yes,
yeah.
I just need to interject one small way, if you don't mind. There's a lot of inertia in the government to introduce this model because it takes to the middlemen. Most of the middlemen have very powerful protectors.
Correct, yeah. That's true.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think this is very, very useful and very different angle to our discussion. So thanks very much for bringing that out, Mr. Bhasker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think we have finished with all the speakers, right, Ananda?
Oh, yes, so far.
Okay. So now we can have some discussion, and are there any questions which panelists would like to ask each other? Anything more we would like to know from any of the panelists?
Can I interrupt here and say one more thing, which
Please.
I forgot to mention? Maybe it is time for the government to think in terms of pricing water.
Yeah.
Water is free, and in Punjab, for example, water is allowed to go in the fields. It leaches the water, and the quality of the water is getting destroyed year after year. In Maharashtra, because water is free, the sugarcane lobby has become very powerful. Yes, it is a perfect system, but at the cost of millions of farmers. So while 21% of the state is irrigated, and while there's 40% increase in acreage in agriculture in Maharashtra, sugarcane saw 100% acreage increase in the past. And sugarcane is a water guzzler. If there's a price on water, you could use the price mechanism to decide which crop grows where.
Thank you. In fact, interestingly, whenever we have a new irrigation project in the country, the first crop that is grown after the project is completed is either sugarcane or rice. That is the unfortunate part, that when we do projects, we don't decide in advance what crops will be grown there and how do we make better use of that water that comes out. But I think this is a problem we have. I think we need to address that in terms of how do we grow more water efficient crops, or how do we make our crops more water efficient? Are there technologies which can make our crops more water efficient? I think those are all questions which we need to discuss.
I think, sir, that one of the issues raised by
your voice is not clear.
Yeah, with regard to one of the issues raised by you with regard to water use efficiency.
Yeah.
See, we are working on now drought tolerant root crops for the vegetables. I think these need to be promoted once we come out with new technologies. This needs to be promoted to a very great extent so that many of these crops can be grown in places where there is scanty rainfall.
Exactly.
This is one way of using the water use, increasing the water use efficiency. Another point is, I think Bhasker made one very important point with regard to market linkage. I have been seeing some of the statistics with regard to IRCTC and other places. Can we not link up our farmers? For example, banana. Suddenly there would be a glut. I mean, I was told that about 1.5 million travelers are there every day going around in trade. But I don't know why not we see that in every meal one banana is provided. I mean, no, this is only out of the box, just thinking. Can we do it at the grassroots level? Whether it can happen. I mean, these are the things which we need to sit, discuss, and work out the modalities.
Sure.
Ram, I just have a question for Bhasker, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
And Bhasker, thank you. Very clear what you said. My question goes back is, you've heard what Ram said about, the role of media. And to me, I feel that we need to change the narrative of the role of vegetables for obviously the nutritional reasons, the security reasons, and actually bringing it back into the forefront. Our system seems to have been built for cereal crops, and for the right reasons. There was food security issue. But as we move that narrative to nutrition, your thoughts on how media can bring that narrative to the forefront? Because I think currently post-COVID, everybody is interested to learn about immunity, nutrition. Is this the right time to strike and bring that narrative forward? Your thoughts about that, Bhasker?
Okay. First, let me explain. On my part, I have been writing about this. Both in my articles, I write for Money Control, I write for First Post, I write for Free Press, and earlier for DNA. In all my publications, I've written about it. But the story has to be taken up by many, many, many others. And this is where maybe you, along with FICCI, should hold conferences in different parts of the country in two ways. One, to show why the government's emphasis on rice and wheat needs to be reduced. We are producing more than our granaries can deal with. As a result, a lot of grain gets damaged, gets rotten. This time, thanks to our granaries, the Supreme Court and the government both decided that we'll give the excess grain free of cost to the migrant workers, to the destitute. Simple decision. Now, can we do this on a regular basis? Can we sell the rotten grain, the excess grain immediately on the future markets? Because even if I get 1 rupee, 1 rupee is better than 0 rupees. You need to have a mechanism that the extra grain should not be allowed to rot. Now, there's a vested interest not allowing that, because then there's an audit of the grain that is sold and you realize that someone has paid first grade prices for second grade grain. Now, but this is the education that FICCI as a national body should provide to regional papers, because that is where the clout, political clout is. The English papers are by and large leaders in a way for thought process. But the real clout lies in regional papers. You have to go to small places, tell them that vegetables can be grown, persuade the government to get large players in, recognize agriculture as an industry, because that allows too many inputs to come in. You don't have these land use and farmer certification restrictions. Once those come in, what Chandrababu Babu did with Namrapali, where every land giver became a stakeholder, the farmer can still be a stakeholder. The farmer does not lose rights over his land. He becomes a shareholder, but you have large-scale technologies coming in. You can change the story of fruit and vegetables. Already, all our data shows that the growth in fruit and vegetables is faster than the growth in cereals, which is inevitable because of the way populations, when they become more prosperous, like to use more nutritious food. But this is the way you have to use media. Media is useful, but you have to use it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we have a lot of interest from the participants to ask questions. Some of them have come on the chat box already, but I would now like to leave this floor open for people to ask questions. So those who want to ask questions can, there is a provision that you can raise your hand, or you just tell us, and then we can put you on.
Can I just make a comment?
Please. Who is that?
I'm Dr. Dinesh.
Dr. Dinesh. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Actually, one of the aspects which we have not tried, especially in fruits, just keeping out of the vegetables, is one of the biodiversity aspects which we have not touched upon. Why I am saying this is, our biodiversity is extremely important, and there is every chance for us to link up this biodiversity with the livelihood security. Only one small example I would give what we have done during the past 2 years. A gentleman having a wild type of, a native type of jackfruit, which on our survey we noticed it, and we have actually taken it up, and now we have empowered the farmer, and he has become a custodian of genetic diversity. And today a farmer who was earning only 7,000 to 8,000 rupees from fruits is earning by multiplication and sales about 7 to 8 lakhs. I mean, this kind of a thing has to happen in many native vegetables as well as other fruits. Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I have a question?
Yes, please. Who is, please identify yourself and then you can ask.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rajiv Tagar, and I have a startup by the name of FICCI Biotech. And we have started with the training of, both the scientific staff, but also the students. So this is where I'm sitting right now. My question is regarding, because of this COVID thing happening. Okay, now I'm broadly talking about, again, the skills, and the vegetable is connected to R&D, and R&D again to the skills. My point is that we may not have a shortage of, this gap which is coming because of this COVID situation, and all of a sudden the people who are training, like Dr. Tiku raised this question, and this question was raised by other speakers also, that there's a gap for this training thing. Now, a lot of things have to change, and probably the employers and the governments have to really wake up to that sort of a call raised by the COVID thing. We cannot have trainings as usual, the way they were having. All of a sudden, it's all online. I mean, I'm sitting in my facility with all those things, like in place. But the thing is, I cannot invite the participants here now. So the format changes in the sense that I have to train my students separately on the online format, and then they can come here and they can sort of come for the practical training. So this has to be sort of bifurcated into two separate sort of sessions, and people can come only for a very compact and a short stay at the facilities. And the thing is, for all the degrees, whether it's BTech, MTech, or whatever, BSc, MSc, whatever, this is a part of their syllabus. So the government has to evolve, the employers have to evolve, and I don't know, I mean, because the gap which is now coming up will show up into the vegetable seed industry, into the trained manpower, not immediately, but short time from now, when the skilled manpower will not be there, the right sort of students will not be there. So I think that is an issue which needs to be addressed, that the employers and the government have to wake up to the challenge that, look, now trainings are going to be different forever, at least for the coming couple of years, till the time the COVID scenario is there. So, something needs to be done in that sense. Are those sort of trainings valid? Do we really recognize that there's an existence, that we need to bifurcate those sort of trainings, and accept those sort of whatever certificates or those sort of trainings, or ask for those sort of trainings wherein students are sort of prompted to, or the staff can be prompted to go in for that. Thank
you. Should I get the question also, sir? Should I ask somebody else also?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Mr. Bhasker Reddy.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bhasker Reddy, yeah, you can identify yourself, and whom do you want to address the question to? You can just mention that also.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. My question is, can we harvest more yields of vegetables by following, organic method of cultivation in vegetables? Because nowadays, there is a buyback system in Karnataka and AP also. There is increasing demand for organically grown vegetables. So my question is, nowadays all hybrids farmers are growing. Is it possible to harvest more crops by following organic method of cultivation?
Okay.
So maybe Dr. Dinesh can answer that. Shall we request Dr. Dinesh to answer that question?
I'm unmuting him. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, when organic cultivation of vegetables or any crop is discussed, generally we take it in such a way that every crop can be grown under organic cultivation. Let us be very clear that everything cannot be grown with organic cultivation, at least now, because the soil fertility status is such in India, wherein the organic carbon content is less than 0.2%. Let us be very clear about it. Now, having said that, yes, there are few vegetables which can be grown under organic cultivation with proper management. I think Dr. Tikku has shown the slide of tomato. Probably we have genotypes with disease resistance incorporated in them. They can definitely be grown as under organic cultivation. We have a detailed information on that. Please log on to our website and see for the detailed information.
So can I add a question to the previous question? I have a question to Dr. Dinesh.
Yeah.
Who is speaking?
So I am a student at National Institute of Rural Development, Panchayati Raj. My name is Narendra Singh.
Okay.
And my question is, while listening to this discussion, all I could think of was physics and general science at the root of it. But my question is, there has to be a balance in between production and consumption. There has to be more value for the production. The farmers should get more money, that portion more. This is a new normal kind of situation, and in the next 3-4 months, there are going to be new policies which are going to affect the coming next few years as well. And I read a news article that in India trials are undergoing right now, and there's a possibility that by September production is also going without the confirmation of the trials going on. So there is a possibility that we might get vaccines by September or October. So how is it going to affect the existing infrastructure that we have, and how are farmers, especially small farmers, how are they going to be affected by it? How are their livelihoods going to be affected by it? You talked about farmer producer organizations as well, and we need to we are looking at doubling farmers' income. That was our previous goal by 2022, and I don't know where we are at that. And can we add something to that? What Kurian had in mind, Dr. Kurian had in mind. My question is to Dr. Dinesh.
Yeah, actually, I stressed on this aspect of FPOs. FPOs is one mechanism. If it can work well, I even gave one example wherein they have started procuring the vegetables and fruits from the farmers. It's not that they can even take up seed production also as an FPO. You also mentioned about, I also mentioned about the marginal farmers. Even they can take up seed production. Seed production should not be a problem at all. And I think the demand for fruits and vegetables post-COVID also will not go down. Let us be very, very clear, because the consumption part of it is not going to come down. Only thing is the production also will not come down. But the problem is only linking them with the consumer. This has to be looked into, as very rightly pointed out by Bhasker ji. I think we need to discuss on this, look at it, and how best whatever we need to do it. He even quoted the example of Dr. Kurian. I think we need to take it up very seriously and do it.
So basically, I think, most of the problems of vegetable industry are well known, in the sense that lack of profits for the farmer, the price fluctuations, lack of value addition, a lack of procurement system, there is no support price. These are all well known things. How does it change in a post-COVID situation is something we need to look at. That will there be greater emphasis by the government on setting up some of the systems which will actually capture the glut, the produce during glut times, and then use it for price stabilization and also for value addition. If you remember in the, I think 2 years back in the budget, they talked of TOP. There was a TOP program which was proposed by Dr. Ashok Gulati. Tomato, onion, and potato price stabilization program was there. But I don't see that it has created any impact in the last 2 years. So it is, what I mean to say is that it is not an easy task. It is a very difficult task. And if it has to be set up at the national level, is also not easy, because as we can see that it has to be perfected at regional levels first before it can go to the national level, as it happened even with Dr. Kurian's model. So I think we need to actually look at more work being done on this at the state level, and then try to then take it to the national level. So each state, can we do something that we capture the vegetable production and we assure some price? There is a price assurance. The problem with some of the contracts with farmers on such buyback arrangements is that when the market price is low, if your contract is for 1,000 kilos, you will get 2,000 kilos to buy from the farmer. When the market price is high, if your contract is 1,000 kilos, you will not get even 10 kilos to buy from the farmer. So I think the people who are also trying to do this business also have certain difficulties, So we need to also figure out also a mechanism by which contracts are honored, and then contracts, because a contract like this will give the farmer stable income over a period of time, but it may not give him the the jackpot when it happens, and but it protects him from a steep fall when the fall happens. So I think this is something which we have to look at. But I do see that there is an area, like you also mentioned, cold storage at the village level, then the cold chain. So these are all things which need to be built. But I think right now we need to also look at how do we actually spread the acreages. I think one of the things we need to look at is that how do we make vegetable cultivation take some of the acreages which are being used for highly water intensive crops. I mean, we all know that the crop portfolio in the country, land use plan has to be strengthened so that we have acreages diverted towards more water efficient crops, more nutritious crops, instead of just rice and wheat. So I think we also need to look at that in every state there should be a plan to give sufficient area for vegetables, which is not automatically done. Vegetables is somehow not under a lot of attention from the government. Government will always look at rice as the first thing. Even Telangana, if you take this Rabi rice production is so huge that one is that the acreages were promoted, higher acreages, then the yields went up. Now the huge production of rice is there. Now, when we talk of Kharif also, the message from the government is that grow rice, grow fine rice. Yesterday's newspaper said that. I think there has to be also certain attention to cultivation of vegetables, but also there has to be an attention to price management. I think both go hand in hand. We need to look at that. We have to find answers for the common farmer, for the normal smallholder farmer, which can work for him.
So the next
question.
Mr. Ram Girish here.
Prashant Devkar here.
Just hang.
Prashant Devkar here.
Okay, we'll go one by one.
Yes, sir. Mr. Prashant Devkar is the next one.
Okay.
Mr. Prashant Devkar.
Yes.
Yes. Please ask your identify yourself and ask the question, please.
Yeah. Myself, Prashant, I am in ICICI Foundation. So instead of questions, I have two submissions addressing to the major topic of this today's discussion. One thing is Karnataka is one of the Karnataka is having one of the good case study of including millets in their PDS system, public distribution system. So why fruits and vegetables could not be included in the PDS? Whatever the needs will be there, that can be addressed. Say, for example, if raw fruits and vegetables are not possible, then dehydrated vegetables and fruits can be the good thing, including the public address, public distribution system. So I think this should be taken care of. Second, my submission is towards addressing the food nutrition security. I think nutrient fortified vegetable and fruits, particularly vegetables, should be promoted, should be encouraged, considering the thank you. These were my submissions.
Both are good points. I think we need to include them in our recommendations. Next question.
Sir, I have a suggestion. I am Prasanna working for Horticulture Research.
Yes, please.
I think for vegetable growers, one should consider production risk insurance and also price risk insurance.
Yes.
Okay. Good idea. Okay. Yes, please. Who is next?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Can I talk? I am Pradeep Kumar from Kaziri, Jodhpur. Sir, with regard of increasing yield in the scenario of decreasing land and water resources, particularly when we talk of in next 10 or 20 years, we need to increase production to like 100 million tons more of vegetables, particularly. Yeah. So, sir, we cannot actually compromise with the reducing area for cereal crops. The only way to increase the productivity, we see the productivity of vegetables, it varies from 2 tons to 30, 40 tons in different estates. So the major focus, what I think, because I've been listening see speakers that we increase the production by increasing area or something. But sir, how we can increase the area? If you see, in past 10 years, the vegetable production is increased because of only increase in the area, not in the productivity. Because the productivity of vegetable is almost at 17 tons per hectare for past 10 years. So it is like 16.9 to 17.5 in between them. So I come from Rajasthan, sir. If I have calculated the productivity of Rajasthan of all the vegetables is close to 2 tons per 7 tons per hectare, and particularly of Western Rajasthan is 2 tons. So we are working here even in this adverse condition to protect cultivation, vegetable grafting, as Dr. Dinesh rightly said. I also give a term underground revolution. So we need to focus this concept underground revolution that can bring the vegetable production, particularly of fruiting vegetable belonging to cucurbitaceae, solanaceae, or some legume crops. So we can have a good root stock, resistant root stock. We can develop. We can more focus on the developing root stocks so that we can increase the production under adverse climatic condition, whether it is biotic or abiotic stresses. Mainly the water is becoming really, it is a major limiting factor in many of the areas of our country. So whether water is available, but they are not good quality, salinity and all. So this is one, sir, where we have to look at how we can increase the productivity too, so that we can sustain the production of other crops also. Cereals we cannot forget. Thank you.
Okay.
This is my submission, sir.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Now I request Mr. Daljit Singh to kindly speak.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daljit Singh. I work for Nandi Foundation. It's an NGO based out of Hyderabad. We do take up organic production of coffee in Argu Valley, and we are working with close to 35,000 tribal farmers. And we have also initiated a new program called Urban Farming, wherein we are producing vegetables on the outskirts of Delhi, 100% organic. Last winter, we produced 42 types of vegetables, most of them successfully. And we do also produce our compost. We procured close to 1,000 tons of paddy straw, which people generally burn. So we procured it from 400 acres and we are making compost out of it. Basically showcasing how we can use the agri waste to make the gold for their, the soil. It can go back to their soil. It can increase the organic carbon into the soil. It can also bring the life back to the soils, the microbial lives. And we have a philosophy of PKOR, that when the farmer grows vegetables, it has to become profitable. Right? So we have to also make sure that the farmers who grow vegetables for us is a profitable farmer. The Q is the quality, means what the produce which is being produced by the farmers or ourselves has to be a quality product, because now in the backdrop of COVID, people are becoming more conscious on the not only the quality but the nutrition and also the immunity, which are the vegetables which are going to provide more immunity to the people. So we are also focusing on those things, and in organic production, I think it is very well possible, provided we follow the right protocols and we also use the right kinds of products for like compost and other bio inputs. Third is the regenerative agriculture, whether the farmers is really following the regenerative agriculture, is he really considering the ecology part, the soil part, and the environment part. So these are the three factors which are also very, very prominent while taking up vegetable cultivation. Like I've seen there is a rampant use of pesticides while producing some of the vegetables like okra, ginger, okra, then cauliflower, and brinjal, and some of the other vegetables. There's a rampant use of pesticides. How can we stop those things? How can we make sure farmers growing vegetables, or the people who are growing vegetables on the outskirts of urban areas, using the wrong quality water, or means the sewage water? How can we stop that? How can we motivate? I think those are the things which our strategists need to also consider while making the strategy, and also making the quality protocols, so that these things are taken care of. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. That was a very positive input from you. So just one quick question to you. You did organic vegetable cultivation near Delhi. Did you find yield increases in organic cultivation? This was a question asked by someone earlier.
This is very interesting question, sir, because we have tried 42 vegetables, and out of that, like potato was one of them, and we have got 13.7 ton per acre yield under organic cultivation of Kufri Jyoti variety. I had been producing a lot of potato, thousands of acres of potato in my ITC era, and we had been getting around 8 to 10 tons of potato yield. So there has been increase in yield, and that too in the very first season, because we have used the right kind of inputs, the compost which we make, and it's a sort of biodynamic process.
Actually, if your processes are not confidential, you should share these processes with the general people, that how you have been able to successfully do organic cultivation and increase yields. I think it will be very...
think I can share my contact number here, and though I am inviting all the people, because this is the venture which is started by Mr. Anand Mahindra and Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan. Anand Mahindra is the lifetime chairman of Nandi Foundation, and Chris Gopalakrishnan is co-founder of Infosys. He is also one of the trustees. And they have a vision that how can we rebuild the soil? How can we make a better soil for our future generations? And how can we feed our urban masses with a good quality, nutritious and safe food? And how can we also motivate small and marginal farmers to join this program and make it a big program, so that there is a regenerative agriculture narrative into it. So I can share my mobile number off the line. I think anybody are free to talk to me, and then they can visit our farm on the outskirts of Delhi. It's a complete ecosystem which we have created. We are already growing, this season we are growing 26 types of vegetables, supplying to Big Basket, Mother Dairy, and some of the apartments also. My mobile number is 98766 05841. I'll repeat, 98766 05841.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think we are running short of time. We have finished actually. Is there?
I've been raising my hand, and I have also asked for it.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Dadlani.
Yes, I had a question for Surentikku. He mentioned a very important point about looking for alternate areas for seed production.
Yes,
particularly in vegetables, because we all know that we have not moved out of Karnataka, some parts of Karnataka and some parts of Maharashtra.
Yeah.
But then you see, last year there was a seed meeting in Manipur, and there the officials offered all support under the public-private partnership to seed companies to start seed production in Manipur area. When I asked some of the seed companies who were present there, their point was connectivity, to take the seed down after it is produced. So when you suggest about Ladakh and some other areas, don't you think that in addition to the climate of that area suitable for seed production, we should also consider its logistics, connectivity and other things? My second question is also for Suren and Dilip. See, when we talk about the availability of seed post-COVID or for the next coming season, even when the COVID effect is still there. See, what we have realized in the past is that whenever there is a natural disaster, every government says that we have enough seed for our farmers. But those are just seeds, not seeds which the farmer needs or the seeds which are suitable for that particular crop season for that particular crop. So would you like to comment on these two questions, please? Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah, Suren, it's for you.
Yeah, I mean, Naren, the idea is that is one, a counter season. So it gives you a chance to produce seeds, high value seeds for even export. And Ladakh is now connected by air and you can reach there by road also. I don't think at one time we used to go to Kashmir for cabbage and brassica production a lot of times. So we need, I don't think it will happen in just say one season. It will need, remember when Indo-Americans started Ranebenur, there were hardly 5 farmers. So you need to do transfer of technology, then only it will happen. But one thing is that it can produce as good a quality seed as we are producing today in say Devulgaon Raja. But in a time when all that is going to China or other places. So I think it is something that we need to develop and maybe the government should also help and support this initiative. So that is my answer to you. I know it will not happen, but it is an area which I think has opened up and Ladakh has plenty of land. And the window is April to July, when we can do it. Very dry and very cool and dry conditions, excellent for seed production. So
okay, so I think I'm afraid we have to wrap it up now. Okay. So although there may be more questions, but unfortunately we are already at 1:10. So okay. I'll just take 5 minutes to wrap it up and then we will close this. Is that okay? Yes, so sir. I think thank you all. It was a great discussion. I have made, of course, elaborate notes, but from a policy point of view, because I think everyone spoke very well. Just from a policy point of view, there will be certain things that I would like to capture. Like we need greater emphasis on exports, vegetable exports, policy support needed, infrastructure needed for increasing vegetable exports. This could be also increasing farmers' income. We need more automation in both field as well as in the processing industry, but more in even in the cultivation part. We need more mechanization and automation, so there should be a policy support for that. Then we talked about more of extension. How can we have an extension person for each village, and how can we use our KVKs, and how can we do some skill development among them so that they can give better quality advice to people. Next point is that how can we have better digital services to farmers? The entire extension education, can it be digitized, which will happen post-COVID because of restrictions on travel and person-to-person interactions. Can we build digital models for extension education as well as for e-commerce so that they can buy inputs and also sell their vegetables and fruits through the e-commerce platforms? How can we improve protected cultivation with a cost benefit? Government support is needed there. Then we said that we need more of speed breeding and trying to bring greater quickness into our breeding programs. We have to breed for nutrient types, but also most important point Dr. Dinesh made is that how can we use more of root stocks, and can there be a dramatic change and transformational change in the way we do our breeding programs with the use of root stocks. Policy issue there is that we need more of cold storage at the village level, and also we need a mechanism to capture vegetable production at village level and take it into a network of cold storage and cold chain, and also using it for better price realization for the farmer. There is a target that how can the farmer get 50% of the price paid by the consumer. This is also what Mr. Bhasker said, that what Korean achieved of 80% to the farmer may not be possible immediately in vegetables, but even if you can do 50%, I think it's a big achievement. That is also a policy level thing that we need to do. Then FPOs are to be encouraged, and FPOs are to be generated for vegetable farmers in a big way. I think the emphasis so far has been more on field crops rather than on vegetable crops. So I think these are a few things. There were, of course, other things like we need end-to-end solutions. Most of the times we do piecemeal solutions, but can we do even within government? There are different ministries which look at different things. The Consumer Affairs Ministry will look at only consumer prices, while Agriculture Ministry will look at cultivation. So whether there is a possibility to have end-to-end solutions, not only for vegetables, I think for all crops we need to do that. Pricing of water came as a point of policy intervention that is needed. Whether vegetables can have support prices, this also came up through many questions, that why vegetables cannot have support prices. We need vegetables and fruits to be included in PDS. This suggestion also came. That is also something which we will look at. These are a few things. Of course, we had some excellent thing from Nandi Foundation, that how they have done organic cultivation near Delhi and then increased yields. So I think there were many positive things which came out of this discussion. We will try to capture them into the summaries and also create a kind of a policy recommendations which FICCI can send out to the government. And so I want to thank all of you for your participation and for your patience, because it is not a very easy thing to do this kind of webinars because of various constraints that we have while operating the webinar. But I think it was very good that many good ideas have come out, and I thank all the speakers who have actually come and spent their time on this. I also thank all the participants who actually registered and logged in and spent their time on this. So thank you all. Thanks to FICCI. Thank Akhilesh for doing this and then for anchoring the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Shall we leave? Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.